going for a morning swim with the missus. Some easy stuff, loosening up before leaving to travel tomorrow to go compete. All part of the game. Q&A questions from yesterday on the old Facebook. It's a little something different. Instead of always going to you Instagram guys, I went ahead and handled up my Facebook group. If you want to be part of those, sometimes check out my athlete page. Ignore that magnificent dolphin kicking around behind me. John Harris, tricks to get more lower body involved in the hammers. My advice is to look at videos of Olympic wire hammer throwers and watch their first couple winds before they start going into the spin. This is really similar to what you kind of ought to do in the hammer, but to get the legs involved, you're going to actually have to have them bent. And this is a mistake I make too, but have them bent and start working that way. And as you go to finish your throw, think about extending and standing up. That's the best I can do for you on kind of this short of notice. And think about driving that right knee and that right hip through the finish, just like any of your other throws. Nick Conville, going back to university soon. The drink of choice for the rugby team is snakebite, half lager, half cider, 2 fingers, and black currant. Nice. I've been told the mixture is especially hard on the liver. You think I should stick to the traditional choice or go for a straight ale? I think everything in moderation, man. I think if you want to train hard all week and on a Saturday, in the weekend, or one day a week, have a couple drinks, cool, but don't get shitty and don't feel so terrible all the time. I think for this to be bad for your liver, you're gonna have to drink an awful fuckload of them. So just be smart, man. Mark McCullough, do you have any tips for someone looking to get into the sport? Howling Games isn't real big in North Ireland, as a powerlifting and strongman and clubs is also limited. Would you start with field throwing such a shot and work from there? Yeah, that's what I would do. I would start with that. Try to get into a contest maybe and meet some people and see where they're from. I know, I think John Kelly, I think is his name. He's from Ireland. He's a strongman. He's over there somewhere. You might want to be able to reach out to him on Facebook and see where he's training. I know he's done some throwing with us in the past. I think Jonathan Kelly is his name. Strong dude, really good guy. But yeah, man, grab order a shot and go out in the field and start doing some throwing. I mean, I would, build some implements too. I mean, you can always, DIY some hardware stuff. It's pretty easy to make. A ring handle and some chain, and add some weights onto it. Or look at Sorenex has a Ballistica for about $100. You can add weights to it. Check those guys out at sorenex.com. But yeah, start throwing, man, and get a feel for it. During the intro for your videos, there's a clip of you doing front raises with what looks like a weight wrapped around your hands. What are they? And you'd love to get a pair. These are also by Sorenex. These are center mast bell. Donnie Thompson helped develop them. They're a pretty cool tool. Check them out. I think they're on Sorenex's website, sorenex.com. Willow Rose. How or what do you do to train the body to move linear for weights and stone? Throw a lot. Other part of that was I competed in track and field in college, which kind of helps, but you've got to learn how to get some drive across the ring too. You're not just spinning. You've got to be able to get across, and drills for that. I mean, start thinking about maybe doing some line drills with the weight. I'm sure there's plenty of videos available to check that out, where you're basically just gonna spin and turn and try to drive down a line. And in the stone, you're gonna get all that out of the back if you're doing a full spin. Or a South African, you got to push off that left foot to get across the ring instead of just hurrying into the spin. That linear force is where you're really going to translate into further distances. Stanton Jones. How much does a person in height, weight matter in Highland Games? It's much harder for someone who's say 5'9" and 250 to be a successful pro versus 6'3", 300-pound monster. Yes, it's going to be much harder. I am small guy of the pro group. basically at 6 foot 280, and I think someone recently, Mike Dickens, did an average of stuff, and average pro is 6'3", 295. So I mean, that's going to come into play, but I mean, those are things that you don't really have control over. So I mean, care about your training and throwing further and making progress. Those are what's really going to matter, you know, for the reason that you're in the sport. But it's going to play a role. It's the same reason I didn't stick with strongman. I'm just not big and strong enough to do it. So, you know, it's something to be, you know, be honest with yourself about as far as how you can progress in the sport, and you know what type of plans you need to make as far as if you can, you know, have a real future. Bear Saragusa, as someone who lives in the country and almost no Highland Games competitions, what do you have any pro tips for traveling cheap without doing something that will damage performance? Sleeping on a park bench in the cold. Man, there's no real tips for traveling cheap. I mean, drive. I don't recommend sleeping in your vehicle. I mean, part of it's realizing that this is a hobby and a sport, man, and figure out how to make it work for you, and you know, enjoy it. But if you're gonna compete, you're gonna have to travel, and that costs money. So I suggest find something to do in your real time that pays enough money and gives you enough free time to enjoy the things you want to do when you have free time. But I mean, I travel Southwest. I share hotel rooms with guys. I sleep on floors at friends' houses. And I still do those things. So it's just making the right decisions. Use hotels.com. It adds up pretty quick as far as getting some free nights, and you can find some pretty good deals. David Andrew Gilbert, 2 questions. As of writing, the Captains of Crush video is showing but unavailable for viewing. Don't know, man. And 2, the hate explanation video. Aside from being a badass logo, what's the significance of the dual pistols? So the cross pistols, they're actually pirate pistols. It's not a military logo, which I've been asked a lot. Nothing against that, it's just not what it is. There is a bridge in my hometown that has the railing over each side of the bridge has the crossed pirate pistols. I also have it tattooed on the back of one of my legs, so I've used that. Plus it's cool looking. That's basically the idea. Means a little bit of something and it looks awesome. Andrew Balone. What is a tip for improving the middle part of my bench press? I seem to be strong off my chest in the lockout, but slow through the middle. You and everyone else, my friend. Reps. Reps are gonna be key. Do some board presses, do some stuff, do some work where you're gonna come down and pause an inch off your chest. Instead of come down and touch, press from there. I'd also recommend spending some time using a slingshot. Get used to that speed. Work against some bands. All the standard answers everywhere else has for you, man. There's no secrets. It's just gonna be a lot of work. Heater Terhorst. Head Terhorst. Sorry. Are you still continuing to lean down, and what body weight do you prefer to compete at? My brain and ego prefer me to be about 265, but my distances and how I actually throw prefer me to be about 280. So I am trying to, no I'm not right now. I'll be honest with you. In a couple weeks when the season's over, yeah, I'll care a lot more, but right now I want to throw far. And it's basically just try to keep the wheels on to the end of season. I'm sitting about 278 this morning. But yeah, I want to lean down a little bit, you know, every off season, and come back at 280 the next season a little bit leaner than I was before. And healthier, but it seems the older I get, the more stupid injuries just continually sneak up. Well, that's part of competing 20 times a year and dealing with that. Eric Daigle, what's up, man? Does your mom still make the best chili dogs known to man? You bet she does. But they've been off the diet for a while. Those things are awesome. So for those of you who don't know, while I was in college or in high school, my mom used to individually wrap chili dogs. She would make, you know, hot dogs and bread and mayo and cheese and individually wrap them, and they would go into a basket in my refrigerator at home. I guess in probably quantities of 15, and I would just jam these down every day. and they are just awesome. You could put like 2 in the microwave or 3 most of the time and just hammer away. Jason Rankin, the handcrafted mint shirt or the black on gray shirt? I like the mint. The black on gray is pretty good looking, but I like the mint one. It's a different design, something new. Check that out, thehate.com, for those of you who don't know. Get awesome. I'm gonna fuck up your name, bud. Babija Alaic. Any tips for building strength and getting back in proper form after a long break? Wish you all the best for recovery and hope to see you back competing soon. Yeah, man, if you've had a long break, just start over and get started. Don't keep thinking about it and keep thinking about what it's going to be or how it's going to be, and start slow and start smart. Start with some volume. Like I've gotten Strength Lab for a high volume block at really light weights. Just try to get your body reconditioned to training and be smart. Don't go in and kill yourself and then not be able to train for 2 weeks. That doesn't accomplish anything. Just get in, get smart, get to where you're consistent going to the gym. I don't even give a shit what you're doing, to be honest with you, but get to where you're going to the gym 4 days a week. Do that for a couple weeks and then start trying to figure out some direction of the actual training. But make the habit that you're going to the gym first and quit spending all your time concerning yourself with the details of what I need to do when I get in there. Just go. That's half the battle. Scott DePanfilis. I know you, and I'm terrible with names, so I'm sorry. Week out before a big game, what do you do to shut it all down, relax, and recover? I don't really shut it down the full week before a big game. I'll shut it down usually about Wednesday or Thursday, depending on how I feel. Things are a little different right now since I'm dealing with an actual injury. But normal stuff. Usually the night before I leave town, I like to go out to eat with my wife. I like to have a good meal, usually get some sleep, and do some recovery work. You know, some light cardio, maybe 10 or 15 minutes on the spin bike just to get some blood flowing, and then a bunch of stretching. Basically just go through my warm-up that I do every day just to remind the body that we still have work to do and we're not shutting down to completely heal and recover yet. Just, you know, keep things sharp. Jacob Don, how do you count reps? How do your rep counts break down per week, month for each event? How do they fluctuate through the season? So they're going to fluctuate quite a bit. In the off season, I'm going to take a lot more reps. And what I'm looking at usually, I mean, I'll take 15 or 20 reps per event, and usually throw 1 to 3 events per day, depending on what type of time I have to actually train. But as I go through the season, I'm going to train more days a week. Or my throws training is going to be more days a week, and I'm actually going to start trying to cut down the number of throws but up the intensity. I really want to get to the point, say where I'm at now, that I know in the first 5 throws I take after a normal warm-up, just like I would at a game, I can hit a big one. I need to be able to rely on that and have that intensity and power on tap. I can't slowly transition to it over a bunch of weeks. So think about the first part of your season going to be mostly technical work, where you're going to work at about 80 to 90% effort and speed. And then as the season goes on, you've got to learn how to start pushing that gas pedal to find the big throws and be able to call on those when you need them. That's how my stuff changes up. But the beginning of the season, I usually throw 1 day a week at most, maybe sometimes once a month. And then as it transition, I'd like to throw 2 or 3 days a week, maybe even 4, depending on how I feel and what's going on. So, Will Barron, hey Will. Can you talk a little bit about using voodoo flossing to treat an injured wrist? It's a month since I landed on my wrist while it was bent back. Still totally weak and painful. Can't bench press or clean. Should I start flossing yet? Should start flossing immediately. You know, you're gonna put some compression on it and force it through range of motion without any real pain, but work through those bits and start moving it, and that way you can start getting some blood flow back to that area. As the compression is gonna force all that fluid out of there and start maybe opening up the joint a little bit. As you release it, those things are gonna come through. Think about that as trying to just clear the pipes out in that area. And start moving some stuff, breaking up some tissue. And it's another way that as you're working through an injury with the wrist and things are wrapped up, it's gonna dig into those areas the same way a ball would or a massage would to start trying to break up some of that scar tissue. Now, if your wrist is absolutely fucked up, that's different, and that's a whole nother ball game. But if it's just an issue and it's been a month, man, sometimes things just take time to heal, and that sucks. But I mean, do the best you can to you know, keep it moving. The more mobility, the better it's gonna be. Just sitting there and letting it stiffen up isn't the answer. So I would start flossing and maybe doing some distension work, you know, set the wrist, and so it's gonna pull the wrist and then work on it a little bit that way. But again, I'm not a doctor and I don't know what the fuck's wrong with your wrist. So that's my advice. I think that's everyone, and thanks for the questions. Hope that stays informative, and enjoy the rest of the video. Done swimming, time to go get some food. A little salad. Some meats, be nice. Hey little puppy. Pew. Oh, it looks so good.